Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. If you're new to the podcast, it's just me. Something I wanted to do for a while, and I'm doing it. Over 100 episodes into my podcast now, and it's fun. The more I do it, the more I enjoy it. So I am going to talk to you today about something that you probably already do, but the more we talk about things, the more we have ideas and how to make it work in our lives to help out even better. One of the struggles for women with ADHD, maybe for anybody with ADHD, is executive dysfunction, and that can show up with working memory issues, which means what somebody else, okay, we don't need to compare, but ideally, some information comes in, the working memory does its work. It knows where to store that little note, put it somewhere so that we actually do something with it. And if the working memory isn't working properly, then we forget things very, very easily. They come into our heads and they're gone. They come into our heads and they're gone. And you think about, like if you have to repeat a number or something, just even taking a credit card number and putting it into a computer or saying it out loud for a customer service rep or something like that. When you see that number, you have to either process it from your brain, what you see, to your fingers or to your mouth, and it actually works. It actually causes an action, a result because of what you saw. But if you look at that number, if you don't take care of it really quickly, you might not remember the number. You might have to look at it again. But you caused your brain to work and process what you saw and make use of it. If that's not working out, and you can think of other times of the day, like thinking, I'm going to do this right now, and then you start to walk toward that place that you're going to do it, and you completely forget about it. Or you have something in your hand, you put it down, you're not really processing where you put it. You might even tell yourself, I'm going to remember where I put this because I know when I look for it, I don't want to not be able to find it. And then later you say, okay, now where did I put that? Because you didn't really store that information. You thought about it. You tried to help yourself. You were even aware, which isn't always the case. A lot of times we lose things because we're not aware of where we put them. But life, okay? So that gets in the way of life for sure. And there's different ways to help with that. Oh my goodness, I'm sitting in a way that's not so comfortable. So let me try. I'm trying to sit so that I don't bump my microphones, and chances are my foot's going to fall asleep or something. I'm just going to have to come off of this. Pardon me for half a second. Okay, so I want you to think about advertising and why advertising works. If you're watching a commercial, or if you look in a magazine and you see an advertisement, what does it do? You see an ad. Do we really ever say advertisement? If you see an advertisement, if you see an ad, how does it work? Well, you look at the picture and you think, oh, that looks yummy. I want to go there and eat. I want to get some of that. I want to buy that next time I go to the grocery store. Or that's a cute outfit. I want to buy that. And there are other ways of advertising. Just seeing something on social media, not for my generation, but TikTok is making millions and millions of dollars, probably more than that, for different companies, because they found that if people see it on TikTok and someone talks about it, that idea gets in their mind and they do something with it. So a visual helps because it helps you think of doing it and it helps you remind you to do it. And so whatever visuals we create in our lives, it'll have the same effect, but it's not to make us go buy a bunch of things or make us think we need more. It's to help us remember what we want to do or what we want to remember. It doesn't always turn into an action like, I need to get all this stuff done, although it might, or I need to be here. It might be you're going to drive somewhere and on the way home, you need to stop by the pharmacy and pick up your prescription. Will you remember? What will help you remember? Do you set an alarm for a few minutes after you have to leave the last place you're going to be And that helps you remember, okay, that alarm's telling me, and you actually write on the alarm on your phone, pick up, or go to the pharmacy or whatever it is, and then you do it. Sometimes I actually take the bag from the pharmacy and put it in my car so that I remember, like if I have one from the time before or something, or the old prescription, and put it in the car. But you know what? The car is not really the best place for storage like that. It's not like they have a little shelf to help you see those. I guess they have the dashboard, but that's not really what that's for. We don't want it sliding around. So I have made Post-it notes, and I know people just call them sticky notes, but I call it a Post-it note. I use the brand name, but this one's probably not even the brand name because it's not very sticky. But usually you can find that little spot where it shows what song's playing or the radio or something like that. A sticky note will fit there if you need that there as your visual to pick something up, because we don't always remember. If you get distracted in your head from minute to minute when you're driving, that can happen really easily because you get on autopilot and just think, I'm on my way home now, and you think about going home. I've had times that I've forgotten so many things and I've had to set up systems, and sometimes it's a visual tip, like a cue, a clue. And sometimes it's just doing something visually to help you remember. So let me give you an example. So I went to Target once and told a friend that I'd pick something up for her. So I remembered to do that. I wrote myself a note. So that was a win. If we're talking about success with the visual cues. And I wrote down what she wanted, and I picked it up and I bought it, and I put it in a different bag. I was trying to be organized about it so it would be easier to know how much money she'd Venmo me. And so I picked up her bag of things. I bought her bag of things. I bought my bag of things, maybe a couple bags or something. And then went out to the car and told myself, you need to drive to her house on the way home to drop it off. There's 2 ways to get home. There's the freeway way and the little bit longer way, but it's more peaceful. So I thought, okay, make sure you get on the freeway to go to her house. It was in my mind. Not long enough, though. I didn't have some kind of reminder. I need a reminder. Oh my goodness. So I get closer to the freeway, and I thought, do you really want to go on the freeway? And I thought, no, it's nicer to go, the more country way. So I went straight, and I get home and walk in the door, and I thought, you did not even remember all the way home. It was probably a 20-minute drive. You didn't even remember that you were planning to take this to her. So I carry in the bags. And not only did I forget to go to her house, because I thought I can get in the car and just drive to her house now. It would be an extra 15 minutes each way. It would be out of my way, but I thought she won't even know the difference. But I forgot her bag of things at the store. I grabbed most everything, but not everything. And I bagged it myself and left, how there's the bags on the little metal things if you ever do the self-checkout. And I left her bag there. So yeah, I paid for it, but I left her bag there. So I called Target back and said, I think I left a bag there. Well, I knew I left a bag there. I left a bag there. Can you see if it's there? Has it been turned in? It was at customer service. So it took me a long time. It took a long time out of my day to do it. I never told her that I left it there. I just said I forgot to bring it by on the way home. There was more to that story. I drove back, picked it up, then drove to her house, then drove home. And so as I look back at things, and you may have done this in your life too, where you look and see where are the holes. Where is this working? Where is it not? And the where it's not working is pretty obvious. It stands out. That's where the mishaps are. That's where you're apologizing to people or just frustrated with yourself. And in those moments, you need to think of a new solution, a new method. What can that method be? It's not like I'm going to be bringing Post-it notes to the store that says, remember every single bag. But I thought about what I used to do when my kids were younger. And when we would stay in a hotel or even stay with relatives, go to grandma's house or whatever and visit. We had 6 kids, not always, but sometimes we had 4 or 5, all those years of having little kids and all the things that you bring into the house or to the hotel to stay somewhere, especially at a house because you're staying in multiple rooms. You might even have a porta-crib. You might have all these things. And when we would pack up And then I would always do what I call a visual sweep. I would walk around and look everywhere that we'd been for a sock, a phone charger, or whatever. Back then we probably didn't even have cell phones, but now we do. And I still use this method that even after I packed up, even though my suitcase is by the door at the hotel, I still walk around, and the hotels make it a little nicer. You don't have to look under the beds. At relatives, I would actually look under the beds because things slide under there. And I look on the tables, did I leave a charging thing there? I left a brand new Apple charging cord on a trip once at a hotel, and that was lame. That was lame because I was staying in two hotels that trip, and so I didn't have one at the second hotel. And thankfully with Amazon, you can do an overnight delivery. So I had one the next morning. I had to borrow one from a friend that night because she used it, but I used a little bit too. But I thought you should have done the visual sweep. You should have walked around. My husband would even say, are you going to go in and walk one more time? Yeah, I'm going to go walk around. And I always did it with kids. I always did it after we got the kids in the car because I could do it without distraction. I didn't know I had ADHD then, but I knew I needed to do it without distraction, where I could look thoroughly. And so I've started doing that at the grocery store because that time that happened at Target, it happened probably a few weeks before that at the grocery store, where I was having a Christmas party at our house. It's my annual favorite things party, and went to the store and got the last minute things. Time was of the essence. When I got home, I was doing the last minute things to get ready. Kind of the sweep of the house was not completely clean. Well, a lot of things, but was still visible as not clean. And that matters to me. And I get home, and I was going to make something that needed a lot of ingredients, like a 7-layer Mexican dip with the guacamole and all that stuff. I get home and I don't have everything. I go out in the car, I don't have everything. I left one bag there. So at that point, I just thought, okay, you've done this. This is a pattern. I'd done it many years before once, but it didn't stick out to me because it just happened once. It's like, how did I walk away? I thought, well, because in my brain, I thought I was done. It's like, thanks, bye. Grabbed the cart, went out, and just didn't think to get everything. So now when I'm done, I look at the counter at the grocery store. I look in the cart even when I'm putting things on the conveyor belt, because I've gotten out to the car before with something at the bottom of the cart that I forgot to get out and either do self-checkout or real checkout. Then you have to go back in the store. And it didn't beep on me when I left, but I just didn't see it, So I know that things can get missed. And so now I do more of a look at the whole cart, look at the whole counter or whatever before I leave the store. And also look in the car before you bring stuff in. Have you ever left things that maybe were frozen overnight or something? If it's wintertime, maybe it's not a big deal. But yeah, you might have to do a scan. That's your visual. You're not actually making a sign for yourself or writing a note or putting a water bottle by the door or something so you don't forget it. Although I have forgotten things that are low by the door. I think I've mentioned that before. Sometimes they need to be up higher, or the note has to be up that says, grab your water bottle. All of those things. Don't think I shouldn't have to do this much. Don't feel bad about yourself for having to go extra steps. If that's what you need, do it. Because your brain may be struggling with remembering. And unless it's just like someone saying, hello, don't forget this. And that's what all those things are. Hello, don't forget this. And sometimes it's just your brain getting into a habit of, I might not be aware of everything when I get up out of my seat on the airplane. Therefore, before I walk out, before I grab my overhead bag or whatever, I'm going to look at the seat. I left a pair of AirPods on the plane once. Never doing that again. That was my lesson that taught me. Look at your seat, look at everything, look at the floor, and make sure something didn't fall out. You're not forgetting. And there are times that I feel like, am I obsessive? Am I, maybe the answer is yes, but I need to do that because things will get left. And we need to do what we can to help our brains. So let me look at this. and here's the funny thing. Here's the kind of the paradox. And so when you have ADHD, there's a possibility that maybe you're a person that keeps adding more to your life, maybe more to-dos, more things to do, more interests, more things that you bring into your house, more things to take care of, keep track of. And the more that you do that, the more you add hobbies, life experiences, appointments, things to do, whatever it is. If you're not simplifying, you're actually going the other direction. And that's possible because you may just have ideas all the time and want to do different things. And so when you do that, it's going to make it more complicated for your brain because you can't possibly keep track of it all. So you need to do what you can to help you. It would be nice if our brains were a storage unit, but they're not. They're not always. Well, and it's not just that once the information's stored in there, we don't remember. Sometimes we don't remember. Like it could be the name of an actress or a TV show or who knows what, a song. And you can't remember it because you're trying to remember it, but you know it's in there. And when you're not trying to remember, when your brain is a little more relaxed, 5 minutes later, you go, yep, I knew it. It's in there. So sometimes the things are in there and they just can't come out. We just don't remember because we're thinking about other things, or we're maxed out or whatever. We're just on autopilot driving home. But other times it's actually that the information never went that far. It never went into your brain. It never got stored. And that's okay. It's not the greatest thing. It's not the most fun thing, but it's a reality and it's okay. It's just, I have a different way that I need to handle it then. I have a different way that I need to work with it then. So let me see what else we can talk about here. And isn't that a nice natural segue? I'm just looking at my notes. Well, and that's the other thing is when you write notes, just because you write the notes, do you see them all? It happens to me almost every podcast episode is I have so many notes and I look at them and sometimes I go through them all, but sometimes I look and go, you just missed a whole section. My brain picks out some things and not everything. And that might happen for you too. So anytime your brain isn't going to remember, you need to have kind of like an external hard drive. You have a way, like a personal assistant, a separate storage unit, and it could be a notebook. It could be writing it in your phone. It could be a Google Doc. It could be whatever. Writing it down is important, even if you never need to look at it again, but it's there if you do. If you're not good at remembering people's names and you have a job or your life or you're dropping kids off at school, you're meeting new moms, and it's important to you to remember people's names, then you need to do things like write it down as soon as you get to the car. Put it in your phone. I used to write in my phone. In fact, I still have phone numbers in my phone for some of my friends as like Nathan's mom instead of her name, because for a long time, once I hit my 40s, I just wasn't remembering mom's names very much. So I just write the kid's mom. And then, you call them up and, hey, my son wants to plan a play date with your son. You don't have to know their name right away. So that's one thing. But if you do know their name, write their name in your phone. Put them as a contact, even without the phone number. Just write a note about, met her at the gym and she's really nice and she has dark hair. And it's not like you're stalking her or anything. You're just remembering because you might think, oh, I'll remember. I do that a lot as a yoga teacher. I think, oh, for sure, I'll remember them. There's only 3 of them. And then I get home and maybe I don't remember any of the 3. But if I write it down or if I say it several times or if I say something to him like, oh, I'll remember this because, and then I give an experience, because as someone with ADHD, I do have that thing of loving to share, but I give an experience, I give a connection, but it's also giving my brain a connection. One of the women that I think I will never forget her name, and she hasn't been back to class in a while, but one night she told me her name, and I don't hear very well. My right ear hardly works at all for voices, for vocals. It hears some sounds, but understanding words is not one of them. So it messes up the end sound of words, and apparently the front sound, the first letters sound too. Anyway, So the woman told me, so it was the husband and wife, and she said her name was Ramy. And I thought, that's so cool. And I said, Ramy, that's so great. I said, I have a friend who used to say, if I ever have a girl, I'm going to name her Ramy. Her last name was Rohrbach. She said, it'll be Ramy Rohrbach. And she just thought that was the cutest name. When I met her, she had one little boy, a toddler boy. She had 2 more boys. So she never had a girl. She never named her Ramy. But she said that again with her next 2 boys, if this is a girl, I'm going to name. So anyway, so I shared that story with her. Like, I know somebody who wanted to name their daughter Ramy, but she just never had a daughter. And so I thought, oh, of course I'll remember your name. Well, another thing that I do as a yoga teacher, and like I said, it's not like I'm stalking or anything, but I'm trying to help myself remember people. And so when I get home, I'll look them up on social media. I'll think, oh, I wonder if I just put in the first person's name, even if I don't know their last name, maybe they're friends of somebody, because a lot of times Facebook, will give you somebody local. Instagram seems to give you more famous people when you start typing in a name, but they'll give you like a friend of a friend or something. So I find out her name is Amy. There was no R. So I felt so stupid, but I'll never forget that because I have a news story. And when I do see her again in class, I'm always going to know her name's Amy because I messed it up. Yeah. So, oh, yes. Okay, so let's go back to the idea of visual sweeping. So another thing that can help you remember things is making it a habit to do things in a certain order, otherwise known as a routine or a method or habit stacking. Last week I talked somewhat about having daily routines, whether it's the same every day, or just a morning routine, or this is my get ready for church routine, or this is my get ready for the gym routine. You can have a routine. This is my go to sleep routine. And if you have a hard time remembering to take your asthma medicine, you might need to take it twice a day. I'm not very creative with coming up with ideas, so this is mine. I have to take asthma medicine certain times. If you have a hard time making that visual, putting the medicine by your toothbrush, if you're already brushing your teeth. If you're having a hard time remembering to brush your teeth, put your toothbrush by the sink so that you do it, when you wash your hands before you go to bed or something like that. But the habit stacking is really helpful to not forget things, to get into a routine, to develop the habit because your brain triggers you to do it. You might not go into the bathroom thinking, I got to take my asthma medicine tonight, but you go into the bathroom knowing you're going to brush your teeth. And when you do, you say, oh yeah, and I'm going to take my asthma medicine. Or maybe you take medicine for your ADHD or some supplements. But some days you forget to take it. Sometimes you remember. So having a routine of when I wake up in the morning, maybe having a water bottle already ready for you. It has ice in it. It's insulated. It's going to be cool in the morning. And you wake up and you see that water bottle and you take a drink of water, healthy thing to do, and have a habit of having your supplement, your medicine right next to it, setting it out the night before. If you do that enough, even if that medicine's not right there, when you see that water bottle, that habit is already, it's that Pavlovian kind of thing. When I do this, then I do that. When I do this, then I do that. I don't know if you have any experiences like that. If you have, I want to say, if you've done some stacking, I want to say, you can't say, how do you be stacked, I guess. If you've put habits together before, when you go to do something, you will start to think of it. Like I exercised in the morning to DVDs and stuff for years, videos before DVDs. And that was my habit. And I knew that I would do things like the routine the night before, go to bed on time, have my workout clothes ready, already choose what my workout was. I did as much prep things as I could because it helped make sure it was really easy to do in the morning, had my water bottle ready. But at some point with one of my friends, I don't know if you use Marco Polo where you can video each other, we started sharing our workout time. And whether you kept the camera on, most of the time we didn't keep the camera on the whole time because you turn the music up and they can't really hear you and that kind of thing. But But it would just be, I'd have my phone there, I'd have it propped up. This is the workout I'm going to do. I've got all this. I'm excited. Da, da, da. And I'd start out and, just knowing that she's there with me, kind of like we're working out together. And then at some point, turn it off and keep working out. And it got to be that when I got up in the morning and walked toward that room, I wanted to work out because I had connected. When I went in there, I connected it. This is the time that I get to spend with that friend. This is the time I get to do this. I was no longer just thinking it was me alone because I'd done it so often. It gave me something to look forward to. It was in my brain that those two things were connected. So anything that you connect is going to be another cue for your brain. It might not technically be a visual cue, but for me, when I've done this kind of thing, it becomes visual. It's like I can see in my head the experience. If you've ever watched a certain TV show, at a certain time of the week or a certain time of the day, I started watching Little House on the Prairie on a little DVD player while I was doing dishes just to get myself to watch it. I had the DVDs. And then I thought, well, now I'm buying season 2. Well, now I'm buying season 3 because it was so effective. It got me in the kitchen, enjoying washing the dishes when I needed to do it. And there were times other people in my family were doing it. But it was the thing that kept me in there because it just took away the dread factor. At some point when I ran out of DVDs, there were no more seasons. I would go in the kitchen even other times of the day and just turn on the sink water, and I could hear the Little House on the Prairie theme music. I could see it, the scene in my brain. It was so ingrained in there. It was all connected. So that became a pleasant thing. It wasn't a cue, a visual cue that was helping me remember to do dishes. It was helping me enjoy doing the dishes. So you can use them for all kinds of things. You can make it a lot more pleasant an experience. But here are some examples. Some of them you may do, you may not, or you may have tried. But notes, whether it's a sticky note, whether it's on the fridge. I do fridge notes sometimes because I know that I will never go a day without walking up to the fridge, or by the door that I walk out of when I leave, or on my laptop. Have you ever put a note on top of your laptop? I have. This is one of them. Black duct tape. It's pretty sloppy, but yeah. That one. And then, honestly, I made this note. I put it on my laptop. I think it fell off because, like I said, I don't think this is a real Post-it note. I think it's not really, it's an off-brand or something. And when I finally slowed down to get on Amazon and place an order, I didn't know where the note was. And I thought there were 3 things on it. And I thought of 2 of them. And I placed the order, and I looked for the note. I couldn't find it. I'm looking right now. There were just 2. There weren't 3 things. So I did all right. No system is perfect, but it did the job. But yeah, calendars, whiteboards, whether you need a whiteboard for your daily routine, or a printout of your daily routine, or a big picture of what the week's going to look like. If you have a lot of people in your house, who's doing what. I did that more for when I was going out of town. I did more traveling by myself as my kids were older, and I would print out a paper that would say each day that I was gone, who needed to go where, who had what, soccer practice or a recital, or who needed to be driven here or there. That was the big picture of the week, but the play-by-play too. I don't really do that for my regular day, but I have bought some boards to do that. I just haven't done it. I bought not the whiteboards, but the chalkboards. It's the black chalkboard, and they could have a wooden frame or a white frame, and then they have the chalk markers, and they're so pretty. Like at restaurants and stuff, at delis or sandwich places where it has it written in different colors. And I used it for a while, but then my granddaughter liked drawing on it. It's become more of a place for her to draw. So that, not every system lasts, but some of them do. But just the visible things, like laying out the clothes. Have you ever laid out an outfit and go, oh yeah, I was going to do that. Like otherwise you're going to gone into autopilot and forgotten that you're going somewhere that night or something. But something by the door, it could be whatever it is, a bag by the door to grab on your way out. If you're afraid that you won't look and see it, write yourself a note, look down. Color coding things, if that helps you. I don't know that it helps me. I know that people do that, and I've done that in my little planner app. Well, it kind of does it for me. Like if I write something for yoga, it'll do it in purple, or maybe I get to choose the colors actually. But it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't help my brain do anything. Actually, I just think it looks pretty. And then, do you remember to charge your phone? Do you have it in one spot? Do you have it in multiple places? Do you have one in the car? I have one in the car, and I don't know that I need it, but I don't know, just seeing it helps me remember to do it. And then also, if you have boxes, so if you have things in your refrigerator, if you forget that you have food and then it goes bad, or you buy food and you forget to eat it and it goes stale, have clear containers in your pantry. Make things visible in your fridge. Things can get lost in a vegetable drawer. It's kind of sad to think of how much money's been wasted on vegetables I forgot that I bought. But if you can make things as visible as possible, or write a note on the fridge that says, these are meal ideas or food ideas, because it may leave your brain as soon as you get out of the grocery store. And yeah, I think I just like always, I look at these notes and I think I've said it, and afterwards I don't. I don't know. How am I doing on time? Pretty good. I hope you've thought of something new that maybe you could do. And also I hope you know that you don't have to rely on your memory. You shouldn't ever rely on your memory if you have ADHD, because it can lead to frustration. And you shouldn't feel bad that you can't keep track of things and other people can. It might be frustrating. That can be I feel bad. But don't feel bad like you should be able to do it. Like, why can't I do this? And get mad at yourself for not being able to do it. You can get mad at the ADHD if you want, but don't get mad at yourself, because your brain is doing the best that it can, and you're just doing what you can to support it. You're outsourcing anything that you can by having, all I can think of is that external hard drive or that Google Drive. You're taking stuff, and whether it's physically on the computer or not, you're putting it somewhere else because your brain storage isn't thorough. And it's kind of funny, because once you get dependent on computer things like writing in a Google Doc and having that information and being able to access it, I also go through things, when you edit things online or something, you can do the undo button. And it's so nice because you make a mistake and you do undo. And I've been finding myself this past year that when I do something and it makes a mess, or I spill something or trip, or, whatever mistake it is, I wish I could hit the undo button. And it's not like it's a silly thing like, oh, I wish I could hit the undo button. Wouldn't that be great? It's more like, I think I can. I think my response is, we'll just click the little turned arrow and go back, and then you'll be fine. And I think, no, life doesn't work that way. Or you drop something and it breaks. Life doesn't work that way. But we do have access to computers for things that we can't, that we don't have to just rely on ourselves. Life works a certain way, and the computers can help us with some of it, but not all of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, my goodness. I think that's it. And I still have time left before I have to leave. I'm not going to be super rushed before my next class. I realized, if you're watching on YouTube, that my sweatshirt matches the flower and the border on my frame for the video. But it's September. If you're listening later, it's not September, but another time of year. But I'm kind of excited. It's fall. It's a little It's still warm in Florida, but it's cool in the morning. Just kind of exciting. Kind of exciting. I guess the only other thing that I thought of, and I probably didn't write a note for, is on top of it's possible that you're somebody who has a lot of ideas and gets involved in a lot of things. So there's more to keep track of in all of that. You also may be sensitive to discomfort. It could be your clothing. It could be your shoes. It could be, I need to have sunglasses when I walk outside. I need there. You might be you might feel sometimes like you have to bring a lot more things than other people do when you go somewhere. And there's more for you to keep track of when you get out of your car or you're heading back out to your car or something. Maybe you're thinking, Renee, this is just you and maybe some other people, but not me. But that could be. There are some sensitivities that come with ADHD of noticing if you're too hot, you're too cold, your pants aren't comfortable anymore. You need something cozy to wear. You need this. It may be you don't like it when you get cold, but you don't like it when you get hot. And if you go in a store, you have to have a jacket. The air conditioning's cold. You have all these things that other people just walk in the store and they just walk out. And they're not like, oh, I'm squinting. I got to find my sunglasses before I walk out. They're not feeling that way, but you're fumbling and stuff. If you have more things like that, you bring Band-Aids with you in case you start to get a blister. All those things that later you think, oh, no, I forgot that. All of those things, it does add to your load. It adds to your mental load of what you need to bring places, how you need to pack your bag, whether it's just a purse or a little belt bag or whatever, all those things that you have to keep track of. You might be a little more particular about it than somebody else, and that's okay too. But just know that you've got a lot going on in your mind, and there's a reason why you have to come up with these little methods to help yourself so you can stay afloat. It's like a little lifeline. It's helping you stay afloat as you go through your day. As simple as trying to remember to go to the pharmacy, which actually, this is my auditory reminder. I do need to stop and pick up my ADHD medicine. It's ready today. I'm trying to make it so I don't get it a day after or 2 days after, keep forgetting, because then there's that many more days that there's lapsing and stuff. So I made myself a mental note earlier to leave earlier before my class so I could go to the pharmacy. And if I leave in a few minutes, I'll have time to do that before my next class. So thanks for helping me think about that. I'm sure you're saying it's nothing. I didn't do anything, but you did, because you're out there. I know you're listening, and that keeps me coming here and help me. So I honestly am going to type it right now. I'm going to actually send myself an email. That's my other visual. I know I've talked about it before, but I'm going to send myself an email because otherwise it won't show up before I leave. Pick up, I'll just say RX. I wrote TX. Okay, I just sent it to myself. And then, I don't know if you're like me, I don't like it. Like if I looked at my email on my phone, I don't like to have something that's not open. And so I open it to see, but then I have to open the envelope again so it's there later if I need to be reminded of it later. That's another visual reminder if you haven't done that. But I just sent myself an email because when I get off of here, an alarm's not going to help. I'm not going to sit and do that while I'm talking to you. Anyway, thank you so much. I will be back, and I'm so grateful for you for being there. I already said I'll be back, but thank you so much for being here. Bye.